Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl Gals and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a story about the time in which I was nearly robbed of the proper credit I deserved for a short film that I contributed to during my senior year of college. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the mess. Okay, so the story takes place during my senior year of college, and I attended the University of Rochester. And at the beginning of my senior year, I was on top of the world. I was a college senior, so you couldn't tell me nothing, and I was newly elected as co-president of the Undergraduate Film Council, aka the film club at my university. My co-president we will refer to as Lucas, and Lucas is our leading man. Lucas is the man who is responsible / is the one who would not give me the proper credit when I initially asked for it. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let's share the backstory, right? Lucas is an interesting character because he is someone I have always known throughout my entire undergraduate career, and he has always been someone who I, 1, didn't like, 2, found annoying. Now, he warmed up to me, but the annoying part never stopped. Nonetheless, we decided to come together and form a co-presidency in order to come together and make Film Club the best that it could ever be. We wanted it to be the bee's knees and beyond, and we accomplished just that. Now, there are a lot of things involved in this story, and I want to make it as simple as possible for you to be able to keep up, okay? So stick with me, and I will take you along on this journey. I will not leave you hanging, I promise, okay? So at the beginning of senior year, Lucas and I are spending a lot of time together. Matter of fact, I want you to think about what assumptions you make about two individual people who are spending all of their free time together, are hanging out at somebody's house every single day, having lunch all the time, and are texting in between like all of these moments. This was Lucas and I. This was our dynamic for about 3 weeks. Now, what were we talking about? We were talking about everything under the sun, from film club to making movies to our personal thoughts and feelings, our experiences, our life philosophies, every pretentious romantic scene between like college students and young adults you've seen in movies. That was Lucas and I. We had a particular sort of honest relationship that I had never had with anybody else prior or even since. We were very open about how much we admired each other, how much we had looked up to each other's like strengths, and how we liked the way we were complimenting each other. Now, this is all in the conversation and context of Film Club, but nonetheless, we are also giving personal compliments to each other about we just like your vibe. We just like how you are. And him and I are, these film nerd misfits who feel like nobody cares about what we care about or believe in things the way that we do. So we were just connecting like that. That's just how it worked out. Between all these types of conversations, we were also having conversations about Lucas wanting to make a movie. Now, Lucas was very vocal to me about the updates, the progress, and his desires about making this film. I do not know how upfront he was with other people. I can only speak about how he was speaking to me about it. Now, I was with Lucas when he said he wanted to make a short film. I was with him when he said he wanted to not only make a short film, but get college credit for it. I was with him when he got approved for the college credit for it. I was with him when he decided what the theme of the movie was going to be. I was with him when he decided what the story was going to be. And in between all those moments, there I was giving creative and intellectual advice and input to help him on this journey of making this movie. Now, at no point, as my memory serves, do I remember him ever actually reaching out to me and being like, hey, do you want to co-go on this? Like, do you want to co-direct? Do you want to do any of that? I never really got to offer a place to me like that. But what I did get was a very definite and direct reassurance that I was wanted and needed on set for the acting. That was something that was always made abundantly clear. So what do we have right now? What we have is senior year Lucas and Gabby taking over the world by hanging out all the time to talk about Film Club and then also talk about his movie. Now, I want to specify why all of this is important, because the creation of the movie coincides with the time that Lucas and I spent together in a romantic, non-platonic manner. I put the quotes because throughout the entire relationship that I've had with Lucas, there's always been this air of, it's platonic, but is it? It's always questionable because of Lucas's inability to stop sending me mixed mother signals. Anyways, so we get to a little bit later into the 3 weeks of senior year. We are in honeymoon phase. We were having a great time. I'm having all these feelings, and it's like, you know what? I want this man. I want to be upfront, and I can't hold in these feelings anymore. I'm not 10. I should tell someone if I'm attracted to them how I feel. So I tell Lucas how I feel the same day that we go scout locating at a warehouse to shoot for his movie. I couldn't even tell you what that warehouse really looked like because the entire time I was completely nervous about how I was going to bring up the fact that I was attracted to this man. I waited until the end of the tour, and I waited till we were about to part ways to tell him how I felt, and needless to say, I had a sad walk home. At no point did Lucas ever directly say, no, I'm not into you, but instead, the words that he used were, I'm not ready to be in a relationship right now because of X, Y, and Z. Plus, we don't want to do anything to jeopardize our co-presidency. You see how whenever it was appropriate, we always found ways to stuff the club as an excuse for virtually anything. Yeah, that's what we did. And that's what he did in that situation. Instead of just telling me, nah, I'm not interested. There I was, heartbroken, simultaneously taking the same classes with him, working with him very often for film club, and feeling like, a fucking fool. Nonetheless, while all of this is going on, and Lucas is slowly but surely becoming distant towards me, he's still actively giving me updates about the movie. He is letting me know about different things that he is working on when it comes to this short film. He indicates to me that he reached out to a new friend of ours who I'll refer to as Gabriel. And Gabriel is the homie. He's the bomb.com. And I had recently spoken to him, and he had let me know that when he became co-director, that was never the original plan, that was never the dream. Lucas had offered Gabriel that position, but Gabriel was really just looking to be a part of a production. Co-director was a very huge step for him because he didn't really have a lot of experience making films. Hell, neither did Lucas. Out of the three of us, I actually had the most amount of experience. Nonetheless, Gabriel was asked to be co-director, and this was information given to me after some time I had expressed my feelings. I wasn't really quite clear why I was being given all of these updates, but it seems now in hindsight, I was being given the updates because Lucas was getting valuable information from me every time that he was updating me about something. I would give him information on how to go about developing his story, how to go about really diving deep into the process. Like, he had written stuff before, but in terms of really like following through with a film, this was his second time doing that. And I was this sort of like consultant figure for him, I guess. That's how he kind of like acted, because we weren't really hanging out as friends. But when the conversation led to it, we were talking about his movie even after the fact that he had rejected me and was slowly becoming distant towards me. And when I say slowly, I mean like little small acts of like literal disrespect. For Halloween, I threw a Halloween party, invited all my friends from like different groups. And not only did he not come because he said he had homework, but then like the next day he told me he ended up playing video games all night. You have to be a dumbass to say these things. That was one thing. Another thing was when he knew that I was pissed about the party. So to make it up to me, we were like, oh, let's just drink tonight and just kick it and chill. He was like, all right, I'm going to text you when I get out of work and we're going to go. Around that time comes, I don't get any response. I hit him up about it, and he literally is like, oh, sorry, we have to do a rain check. My coworkers wanted to go out for drinks and I hadn't hung out with them in a while and whatever. So this, like, la-di-da-di-da, right? And I was like, wow, so just fuck me, right? And he was like, it's not like that. Like, I owe them da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you owe me. Like, you don't dump one set of friends or go hang out with another set of friends. It was always something. And it was just like literal, like small, minute acts of like disrespect like that. You know the difference between you spending all of your free time hanging out with me, talking to me, telling me your feelings and all your thoughts, and then treating me like a second rate friend, but then coming to me for a consultation on your short film. It's getting messy. It's full of, it's a piece of garbage is what the situation already is. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. So let me calm down. On top of all of this going on, this is affecting our ability to run film club, which I am not happy about. Okay, film club is very important to me. And so this is when I confront him and I'm like, you need to appreciate me. You need to appreciate the work that I'm doing for this club and stop like being distant from me for like whatever reason. Like that was what was bothering me was like, we're supposed to be down for the cause, down for film club. And here you go, like distancing yourself from me because I said that I liked you. Like, after all of these like really small nuanced instances of literal disrespect, nothing was really happening after that. Christmas break occurs and we come back, and this is when things jump in overdrive, okay? Because now we have the film needs to start getting into production mode. We need to start working with actors. We need to start shooting things, and we need to start get the ball rolling, right? Now, because this is such a time-consuming thing, and here's the thing, Lucas was not just producing a short film. He wanted it to be of a higher caliber. He wanted it to be of a higher production value. He wanted it to be a bigger thing than just your typical video project that takes about 3 weeks to produce. He wanted it to be a really big theatrical, like, production, and it's like, that's fine, okay? So, because of that, that takes away energy and time that's directed towards film club, which means I'm left with the heavy lifting of taking care of film club. So just keep that in mind, okay? So there's that. Second, then we're getting slowly into production, right? We have rehearsals. This is when my part comes. This is when my time to shine comes in. Because prior to this, Lucas was very, very, very direct about wanting me present when it came down to working with the actors. Even though I was not asked to be part of the auditions, I was given an update and a recap of what happened at the auditions, but I wasn't invited to facilitate the auditions. Nonetheless, I meet the actors and I find out I have about 4 to 5 days worth of rehearsal time, 4 hours each, in order to train these actors and get them up to speed to be able to be in front of the camera. 5 days. 5 days. That's absolutely nothing. Like, I was so, like, pissed that we honestly weren't even working with the actors from the moment that they got casted. But that's neither here nor there. That just falls into new filmmaker, learning new things, gotta mess up to learn, okay? I'm not here to nitpick Lucas on his shortcomings or his strengths as a filmmaker because they're gonna have them. That's not really what I'm here to nitpick about. I just wanted to be annoying. But what I'm really here to discuss is my contribution, right? So I come into the rehearsal space, and so I'm looking at all the actors. I'm thinking about how much time I have. I'm thinking about their level of experience, and I'm thinking about what they're offering me right now, and I realize I have a lot of work to do. If you don't know, my background and what makes me credible for facilitating even these rehearsals are the following. I attended an arts high school where I was actively involved in the musical theater department. I had received several opportunities to study amongst professionals, both at university and both on Broadway, trained on how to like act and perform and things like that. And then also while I was in college, I also took several acting classes as well as a directing class. So I had a very extensive background as both an actor and directing actors. So out of me, Lucas, and Gabriel, I had the most amount of experience still. I may not have had experience in terms of really high-tech gear and production quality. I didn't have that skill nailed down, but I have the ability to work with actors and the ability to create something following a strategic creative formula of developing a theme, narrowing it down that specific theme, taking something from my own life and reimagining it with moments that I've created in my head. Like, I have a very strategic pattern in how I work on my projects, as well as how I work with my subjects and individuals in my projects. I have the charisma and the rapport to be able to develop that with people. And that is a skill that I have. That is something that I in particular have that Lucas and Gabriel had not refined at the moment. I was actually leading the rehearsal. Now, this is why I'm going into this, because this is important about why I was demanding more credit. Not only for my contributions for the beginning of the movie with the consulting and offering creative advice and helping Lucas redirect how to approach the creative process, but also my time spent with the actors. I only had a limited amount of time to be able to, one, do script analysis and character analysis with these actors, because I knew they didn't have the time or the range to be able to do it outside of the rehearsal space, and then running it over and over again. And also, at the same time, I was reblocking scenes and I was helping Lucas cut some elements of the scene because there was just way too much going on in the movie. He had a significant amount of content that could have been snipped from the movie, and I was there to make him do that because I was the one that was getting the actors to read the lines and it was not translating well. Okay, so let's discuss what I've been doing so far. In terms of these rehearsals, right? I am doing character and script analysis. I am directing basically these rehearsal scenes. I am individually speaking with the actors to understand where their headspace is at. I am having them do exercises. I am reblocking scenes. I am cutting lines. I am speaking with Gabriel, because he was also a cinematographer, about how we need to be shaping the scenes. Now, it's not just me on my own, obviously, but me speaking with Lucas and with Gabriel, giving in my input about what will work and what won't work, cutting in things, adding things, tweaking this, doing that. I had a lot of creative control to the point to where it felt like I had commandeered the entire rehearsal space. And after the actors would do a quick performance of a scene, their eyes would go straight to me. If you've ever been in a rehearsal space, you know that once you've done the thing you've been asked to do, you look to your teacher for notes. They looked to me for notes. They didn't look to Lucas for his input or his notes. They were looking for my guidance. They were looking for my expertise because I was the one that was the most well-versed in this. I have experience with acting, from doing different conservatories and classes to attending the arts high school to taking acting and directing courses in undergrad. So I am very much devoted and serious about acting when it comes to filmmaking, because if your actors cannot act, all the other bells and whistles that you have mean nothing. You don't have a story that is breathing in life because it doesn't have life being brought to it by its actors. So, with that being said, as you can see, my contributions to this film is quite extensive. It is very extensive. I am adding in so much value to this, and honestly, things are going quite well. We have some very tough rehearsals because the subject matter of the short film in question is dark. We're talking about mental illness. We're talking about mental distress, and there's a lot of themes of friendship, broken friendships, broken relationships. It's really dark stuff. So it's like I'm also at the same time emotionally responsible for the well-being of the actors, because nobody here is being paid and nobody here is professional. So I was trying to make sure that everybody involved was okay. I had to make sure everybody involved trusted me enough to do the exercises that we were doing. Because the stuff was hard. It was very difficult stuff. We go through production, we shoot the scenes. I'm not there for all of production because I have class. That's really the only reason why I missed a few sessions. But other than that, everything went well. I'll also mention that things between me and Lucas are actually going quite well. We're hanging out. we were hanging out. We were hanging out after rehearsal, and we would talk about the things of rehearsal, but we were also talking about like regular things, like the old times before, just kicking it and having a good time. And it was really sweet. It felt like old times, but not as like emotionally intimate. But nonetheless, I was reeling in all of the goodness of the entire situation. Then things take a turn. So the movie is produced. And I will mention now that at some point earlier, Lucas did tell me / ask me about receiving the credited role as assistant director. Me not knowing a damn thing, said yes. Now, after it was over, I kept having this thought dance across my mind, but I never confidently addressed it, which was, this role, this title is not going to accurately depict what I offered to the screen. Didn't say anything. It wasn't until I had a meeting with the film department's advisor. We're going to call her Susie. Susie was my good sis. I would go to her office and we would just talk a whole bunch of smack about just like anything and everything. She was so funny and a very important part of Film Club being to where it could be. And her and I were doing what we do, shooting, talking or whatever. And she had mentioned to me how weird it was, the way that I was being presented. By this point, the film was produced, the film was edited, and it was being screened on different locations on campus. Both a personal screening that Lucas had set up himself, along with him submitting it to the on-campus film festival, which actually ended up winning second place. All of this was going on, and I was just like, something doesn't seem right. Because even though it was being screened, Lucas was having me be up front for the personal screening to discuss the process in making the film. And I was not present for the film festival because I was probably working. So, it was just a really bitter taste in the back of my mouth until I'd spoken with Susie. And Susie, who knows nothing about filmmaking, was like, isn't it kind of weird the way that this whole thing is being set up? And she kept saying, I don't know anything about filmmaking and I don't want to make anybody upset, but something just doesn't seem right. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So that's all I needed to do my confrontation. It was just a matter of when was I going to do it. Later on, if not that very same day, this is much later into senior year. To give you a timeline, we shot around March. The film was edited and finished by April. And now we are in April, the last few weeks of April, beginning of May, because the school year is coming to a close and we're getting ready for graduation. So we have the last club meeting of the year, and the new e-board had planned the meeting. And at some point, this really weird event occurred. To give you context, Lucas had at this point been riding an incredible high of accomplishment. He had completed a very difficult film to produce. The production value and the magnitude that he was putting into this film made it really difficult to accomplish, and he succeeded, and that was amazing. I am in no way, shape, or form discrediting the work that was put into this. One, because I put work into it too, but also because it was Lucas's story. At no point had I ever taken credit for Lucas's story, because it was very much his story. I wanted proper credit for what I contributed to bring the story to light, right? This is what's on my mind. And on Lucas's mind is feeling like he just made the best movie on the planet and you can't tell this man. So, it's the last meeting of Film Club, and at some point, Lucas and Gabriel sit down in a pair of chairs in front of me, and I was about to move the chairs and they sat down in the chairs and I'm like, I need y'all to move. And Lucas goes with Gabriel sitting next to him. Dynamic duo that made the movie happen. What? Yo, I was mortified. Not only did he said it in front of me. Like I was literally standing in front of them and they were sitting in seats in front of me. And I was like, don't you mean that dynamic trio? Crickets. He didn't say anything. He literally wasn't even looking at me. He was like sitting like this. Meanwhile, I'm standing right in front of him. Old Gabby popped out. And I said, don't get smacked. I had never seen a man get up so fast in my life. Him and Gabriel got up so quickly. It was so funny. Nobody was trying to get smacked. He should have got smacked. Lucas is the type of person that needs to be smacked. I have threatened to smack this man on many occasions. I should have been done it. That was my cue to just do it and not say that I was going to do it. But it was just so disrespectful for him to even do that, not only in front of me, but you did it in front of the entire film club. I don't know if everybody was paying attention, but it was rude as hell. It was fucked up. And if you're watching, y'all anyways. So that set me off. Oh, I was livid. I was on fire. I was already going to confront him, but him acting like a piece of trash? So later that night, we had a party at Lucas's crib and we watched the movie and I was so pissed at how late my name came in the credits. It came so late in the so late into the credits. I was livid. The next day I messaged him telling him that he was fucked up for that dynamic duo shit and that I wanted more credit. This man really said to me that he was going to get back to me when he had the time to deal with it, but right then wasn't the time. And it's like, sir, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? Yo, seriously? It just was like so ridiculous. That message. Because after I got that message, he didn't say anything to me for days. For several days, Lucas did not respond to me calling him out for being an asshole and me requesting that I give more credit for the work that I did for the movie. So he said, I'll deal with this when I have time to. And then he literally doesn't respond for days. 3 days go by and I'm like, all right, come on now. Come on. So he's like, basically, this is his energy. I really appreciate everything you did for the movie, but I'm not going to give you anything else. Oh, I was pissed. And so I was like, how dare you? Like, you cannot take credit for my creative footprint. You cannot take credit for stuff that I made happen. He wasn't having it. And so I was like, fine. So we didn't speak for like damn near a week. And then one day I get a message and it's like, hey, do you want to talk in person? Let me mention, all of this is happening in Snapchat DMs. Okay, I didn't mention that before. This is all happening in Snapchat DMs. And so then he's like, let's meet in person. I said, okay, come to my crib. He comes, we're talking, and I'm basically saying the same things. You cannot take credit for you cannot take credit for my creative footprint. You cannot claim that you produced something that you didn't actually produce, put it on your director's reel, somebody hires you, and then you can't reproduce the same results. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Crickets, silence, nothing. And this man is in my face not saying a fucking thing. trying to tell me, well, you weren't there for this and I needed you to help me for these certain shoots. And I'm like, Lucas, at no point did you ever ask me to be a part of this production in one, a professional way. And then two, at no point had you ever even taken into consideration asking me about my schedule, asking me about what I'm willing to contribute. Like literally, like a lot of the stuff was planned when I was busy, when I wasn't available, because at no point was my schedule taken into account when it came to planning. But excuse me. But Lucas kept coming to me for consultations about how to take his movie to the next step. Now, it wasn't always, okay, Gabby, how do I move this to the next step? That was not how the conversation went, but that was the energy of it. More so, it would be like, this is what we're working on now. This is what we have going on. And And then I would be like, okay, it's great that you have this. Are you thinking about these things? Are you thinking about this? And that's really how the conversation went. And so it's like, for you to just be like, here's assistant director. Do y'all know what assistant director does? An assistant director does all the grunt work. They do all the planning. They do all the scheduling. They do all the calling. I didn't do a single thing like that. But let's be real. Let's talk about the skills of Gabby B. My charisma, my conversational skills, my leadership skills, my ability to develop a rapport with people and get them to trust me in order for us to create a resounding space that allows us to be creative, try new things, and be ourselves. I am really good at doing these things. I'm really good at developing a story and telling it. Like, these are my strengths. And my strengths is exactly what Lucas was leaning on in order to help him develop his story. But the problem is that he didn't want to give me the proper credit. And when it came down for the conversation, he was being dismissive and he was being an asshole about it. And when we had the in-person conversation, nothing was really coming about. He was not budging. He was trying to tell me that basically I didn't contribute enough. I wasn't there enough. And I'm like, I think you're missing something very important, which was, while I was not there for every single waking second, it is the value of the work that I brought that transformed your movie. Let's be serious. Let's be real and talk about it like how it is. Like I said earlier, your film is nothing if you have actors who cannot act it out. If you have bad actors, your story's garbage. Who's watching bad acting? Who's watching inconsistent acting? Nobody's doing that. And when it came down to it, Lucas did not know how to engage with the actors. And that's on period. That is a very valuable skill that you cannot toss away as a filmmaker. After all of this, we get nowhere. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk to the head of the film department. Because the head of the film department, who is obviously a professor, was the one overseeing Lucas's project. And Lucas was like, go ahead, I already told him everything that you did. And I knew that was a lie, because it was a lie. I had a conversation with the head of the film department, and at the end of the conversation, he said to me, thank you for telling me this. Lucas did not tell me all of this. That's a little weird. After that conversation as well, the head of the film department placed me as a producer of the film. It's not co-director, but it'll do. It does well because it encompasses many different parts, and I played many different roles. So that's why we settle for producer. But y'all know what's up. Y'all know the dealio. Lucas wasn't budging. And he was being a dick about it the entire time. The reason why I'm even telling the story is because I was having a conversation with Gabriel about the situation. And both Gabriel and I have not heard from Lucas in 8 months. This situation happened in spring of 2019, but we managed to make amends and fix it, but other BS happened and I haven't spoken to him in months. And we were talking about the bullshit that happened. And Gabriel tells me, after I tell him everything I just told y'all, he had no idea that I was this involved in the movie. Not only did the head of the film department not know, but Gabriel didn't know. Gabriel didn't know that I was there, part of the movie, before he was. He was like, Gabby, if I had known that Lucas really wanted you to be part of the acting portion of this so badly, I would have made sure you were at the auditions. It's been 2 years since this incident, and Gabriel had no idea that I was so heavily involved in consulting Lucas during the beginning parts of this project. That means nobody knew. I thought it was one thing if the head of the film department didn't know. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. Gabriel didn't even know that I went scout locating with Lucas. There's a lot of really weird pieces to all of this, you know. You have like your weird flirtation affair. You have your being dickish and distant. You have your using. You have your film geeky production. Like there's just so many different facets going on. And it's like, I don't even know what story I'm telling anymore. All I know is this. Lucas was up for doing that to me, so fuck you for that. And it's funny because we even had a conversation about it like a year ago, and we apologize, but if I'm being frank, because I'm Lucas's apology was just good enough. And I feel like if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. It's good enough. It's good enough. It's good enough. Only just. And all these years, it felt like I was the one who made it a big deal. But the truth is, it was Lucas. He was the one who made it a big deal. He was the one who was the problem. If somebody on your crew, somebody part of your team that you're working with is saying, hey, I have an issue about the way that I'm being represented or about the way that I'm being labeled, can we discuss this? It would be nice if you could be a mature adult and be like, I'm busy at the moment, but I will get back to you and we will have a full conversation about this. It's really that simple. Instead of texting me, I'll deal with this when I have the fucking time. Fuck you and your fucking time. What? No. It's also weird because it's always men that do this. It's always men who like steal things from women. Like, when have you ever heard of a woman stealing anything from a man besides his life? When have you ever heard of a woman taking credit for a man's efforts? So, for me, the biggest heartbreak, even after not hearing from Lucas for like 8 months, was finding out that nobody knew what I really did for that movie. And he tried to play me about it. And he tried to dismiss me. And he had been dismissive towards me on multiple occasions prior to that. And even afterwards. But the afterwards part is not really why we're here. I wanted to share this story so we can hold men accountable. Okay, it's weird because Lucas was a good friend and to a certain extent, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and then he wasn't. He is consistently an inconsistent friend. That is him. That is just him as a person. And then simultaneously, him being disrespectful as a leader. As a filmmaker, you are a leader. And I am so tired of men getting the opportunity to act up, be disrespectful, steal ideas in the name of creativity. You're an asshole, you're talentless, and you're a dumbass if you really think that disrespect and using people is going to get you ahead. This is not me directly calling Lucas a clown, but let's just say he had very clown-like behavior. Nobody likes a fool. That's why they don't have any friends except for other fools. Now, I do believe that I was foolish in certain regards in terms of so willingly and openly giving all of this help and support to Lucas. But this is why I prefaced saying I had a crush on this man. Because when you're attracted to somebody, you let so much slide. You let so much go. You accept so many things just because you're attracted to that person. And that's what I was doing up until the credit thing. That's when you took it too far. Gary Bowen's like personal self-esteem was definitely rickety-rockety during that time. But my confidence level about my ability to be creative, to be a leader, and to be a filmmaker is very distinct. It is very profound, and you could never take that away from me. I don't give a damn if I make nothing but terrible movies. That's the energy that I walk around with, and it's not my problem if you don't. Because this situation just makes it very clear that Lucas has insecurity problems that ain't got nothing to do with me. Anybody truly secure in themselves about what they do and what they produce would willingly and happily acknowledge when somebody else contributed something that they weren't able to do so. Because after my meeting with the head of the film department, both Lucas and Gabriel had meetings with the head of the film department. I don't know how Lucas's meeting went, but Gabriel recently told me that he told the head of the film department, Gabby absolutely deserves more credit for the work that she did. And I also don't see why this is such a big deal. There was no reason for this to be a whole dramatic soap opera scene involving two film nerds at a university that nobody even knows offers a major in film and media studies, might I add. That's how minuscule this drama is. My graduating class for film and media studies was 9 people, and at least 3 to 4 of those people were minors. Either way, that's my story. It was very cathartic. Felt really good to just... But anyways, thanks for listening to this story. I hope you guys learned a lot about what it means to be respectful in creative environments, standing up for yourself. Don't let people walk all over you. And I think most important of all, know your role, stick to it, don't go above or under. Because then you might get robbed like me. Imagine if this was like a big budgeted movie and Lucas and Gabriel got like mad money from it. The film won second prize for a contest, and I eventually did get that second prize money, as I should. But just imagine if this was on a bigger scale and I was robbed, and on a bigger scale like that, there wouldn't be anybody to protect me like ahead of the film department. You know, the film industry is very white male dominated, you know, and they're going to look out for the next man before they look out for a woman, let alone a black woman. And I need men to stop stealing from women. Either admit that you're not as talented, admit that you need to work harder, or like shut up. Because this thievery, it's getting old. It's getting tired. And y'all need to do better. I should not have to come on here every time I do a story time and tell male filmmakers to do better. But I'll do it. I'll do it. Again, I want us to acknowledge the fact that we can do multiple things at the same time. We can recognize the fact that Lucas was very new to filmmaking and this was his second film, and that he did not have all the knowledge he needed to be able to do this like quite effectively. We can also acknowledge his inconsistency in being a good friend, with his user tendencies and his inability to speak respectfully to people when there's a problem going on in regarding his behavior, because he has definitely had a pattern of speaking to people in this particular way when he don't feel like dealing with stuff. And as a leader, you cannot speak to people that way. I think I've said enough. I think I got everything I wanted off of my chest. I'm sure you can find your own mini lessons. I just want to say thank you for watching and for listening to me go on about this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that I deserved more credit than what I got? Do you think that I was undercredited before? What do you think of the situation? I'm really curious about people's thoughts, because this is probably more common than we're willing to admit, and we got to start talking about it and calling out this behavior, because it is so often that people get robbed of what they deserve, especially women, especially black women, and I'm not standing for it. I'm not standing for it anymore. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.